Hey guys, what's up? It's Jules here for WhatCulture.com, joined as ever by the eternal to my doom Scott.
Hi.
The Tailford. Tailford, yes, his surname is also his nickname. And it is 3 a.m. and I'm very tired. We have just finished watching Bethesda's E3 2019 conference roundup and 5 games.
5 games?
5 games in an hour and a half. They do love their padding, so we're just going to rattle through what happened and whether or not it was any good. So let's kick things off.
There's some positives. The vast majority are, they kind of range from, oh dear God, to, oh Jesus Christ.
Let's just get the negatives out.
Yeah, okay, so the one thing that had us howling during the presentation was Fallout Battle Royale. Which is called Nuclear Winter. It's an expansion that's coming to Fallout 76. And we've joked about that many times. That like one of the only ways, or one of the most cynical ways that, Bethesda could try and get Fallout back in the public consciousness would be to do a Battle Royale, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Now, Todd Howard came out, as well as some other developers, and they were like, we know you guys absolutely loved Fallout 76. You've made it the best online community there is. And we're just like and he did address it and said that, there were some valid criticisms. Everyone cheered and was like, yes, Todd, there are valid criticisms. And then he just barreled through it and was just like, yeah, but you really love this game, though, so we're going to add in the thing that you've all been asking for, a Battle Royale mode.
Well, they had this weird thing, right? Because you had Todd Howard saying, addressing the fact that there's some worthwhile criticism and just saying that, there could have been more features at launch. And then you had these other 2 key devs that are working on it saying, look, we're going to bring in human NPCs and we're going to round the game out and do all the stuff that, should have been there at launch.
The thing that was being added in is human NPCs, new mainline quest storylines, and then there was like some legendary stuff that was going to be added in, and there was one more thing, I can't remember what it was.
Basically stuff that should have been there at launch. And so that goes down the route
dialogue and choices.
Yes, that goes down there was one bit where he said, and we're going to give you full dialogue trees, and everyone went yay, and I was like, full dialogue trees.
How is this like?
Why are we cheering that?
It's like in this day and age when it's like Fallout, a game that you would consider to be mostly around moral choices and stuff like that, when people are going, thanks for adding it back in, we love you now, whatever. But they are making the game back to where it should be.
Yeah, so that was the thing, is that you had these 2 devs talking about, they're going to bring all these different game features in, they're going to bring it back to the way that it's supposed to be, and then in the next breath you have Fallout 76, which for me is the most cynical cash grabby route that you could go down. That I don't guarantee, but I don't believe that a Battle Royale was on the table when they started doing Fallout 76. I think it's something that they've pivoted into, considering the way that it went down.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So, if you're into that sort of thing, then it's free. It's going to be a new mode that's added in. You can add in sort of like crafting and base building into it, which again is pretty staple if you play Fortnite and stuff like that. So, it looks fine, just not really anything to be as impressed with as they wanted you to be. But, speaking of things that really impressed it, really knocked out of the park, Commander Keen on mobile. I die twice.
This is so weird, because if you know your Bethesda history, you know that Commander Keen is one of the oldest side-scrolly.
It's one of the first action games that they released, and it's like a huge thing. They reference it in Doom, for Christ's sake. There's even a lovely fan theory that he's his granddad.
Yes.
And it's just like.
So they're bringing Commander Keen back, and the way that they mentioned it on stage was that it was going to be the Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic, which sort of made it look a little bit like Phineas and Ferb, or a little bit, like a Cartoon Network style. And then they said, but it's only going to be on mobile only. So then they cut to the gameplay, and it's this weird, microtransaction-filled, item-based progression thing. Very, very slow. It's still like a side-scrolly, platformy thing. There's a head-to-head mode where you're trying to get the best items to try and get to a flag first so you can retrieve it. It just, it looked atrocious.
This is the thing. It just looked like to me a bargain basement mobile game, and we're not going to give it too much time, so let's move on. Because speaking of time wasting, there was a lot of it going on in the Bethesda conference. There was a lot of focus on the community aspect of interviewing people, and that's fine. I like the fact that they're trying to get over that they have a community that is very strong. Bethesda does have a lot of fan support. However, in a conference in which feels bloated at best to only talk about 5 real new titles, an hour and a half and talking to all these things, and they're all just sitting there going, I love Fallout 4. I think Fallout 4 is the best game I've ever played. Have you played any other games apart from Fallout 4? Nope.
There was a lot of backpatting. There was a lot of we're going to remind you why we're Bethesda and why we have this community and all these different people that we sort of, we rely on for the likes of the modding community or things like that. And it's we get it. You're Bethesda. We know exactly who you are and what you offer, and we're looking for new things from you. And very rarely did they deliver anything.
They just went on and on and on and on and on, which actually leads to the next game, which is called Deathloop, which is a brand new IP. You love my little segues, don't
Yay!
news. So this is these two French guys came out. Apologies, I can't remember your name, but they actually were so passionate about this because they basically
Arcane Studios is the one you want.
they basically made Groundhog Day into a first-person shooter. The concept being in Deathloop, which is a new IP, that there's two warring factions. One wants to break the cycle, one wants to maintain the cycle. They both wash up on this island. Every time they die or get killed, they wake up again, and it's the same old, same old, same old. And it's a first-person shooter. We unfortunately didn't get to see any.
A continuation of the Xbox conference thing. There's a lot of CG trailers. Like, only really Doom got a whole bunch of gameplay. Everything else was CG. But for Deathloop, with it being created by Arcane, who've done Dishonored and Prey, it seems like they said like they're bringing the Arcane signature gameplay to it. So it's like, assumedly they'll give you a whole bunch of powers, and it'll be up to you how you sort of use them or whatever. There was wall running and stuff like that too. So,
in the trailer, you got to see powers that were quite reminiscent of, if I was to describe it, it would be like Bioshock meets The Island, the TV show.
Yeah.
That's kind of the vibe I got from it, with maybe a sort of like smattering of Wolfenstein. Because
still some old school looking aesthetics and stuff as well. I think everything's like an 80s, 90s trip at the minute.
Which leads straight on to the next 80s, 90s trip, which does include Wolfenstein, which is the fact that Wolfenstein Youngblood is coming out, and it's being released in July, which is going to be flipping fantastic.
I mean, they showed, because we kind of thought with it being set later in the timeline that we'd get an older BJ Blazkowicz, and we totally do. I mean, you're playing as his two daughters, so you're not going to spend too much time with them, I don't think. But just, it looks like they're still carrying forward that really great, like, really kinetic sense of gameplay that was in Wolfenstein 2. So, I mean, if you're going to go more down that route, I like the idea of just stitching more combat scenarios together. I'd still like the story stuff in 2, but this one's trailer was just straight up, like, Doom style.
I'm very happy with that, because obviously it is a couch co-op and online co-op experience. You can play it solo or you can play it with a mate, and I think that it needs to be action heavy if you're going to be that. And I don't think the story is anything more than there's some Nazis, here's a revolution, mix the two together, what lovely cake do you get?
They also showed another Wolfenstein game called Cyberpilot, which is just in VR, which is like kind of like an on-rail shooter, but you're in one of those like the same sort of mechs that we've seen in Wolfenstein 2, just firing off a whole bunch of missiles type stuff. For me, I don't care about on-rails VR shooters anymore. I've played too many of them, but if you're gonna do one, at least you can do it with that sort of game engine and make it look as beautiful as that, Wolfenstein sort of does. Another new game though from Shinji Mikami. It wasn't The Evil Within 3. It was Ghostwire Tokyo, which is a really cool supernatural action game, like an action platformer or action adventure. They sort of described it as, where you're playing in this like future like Neo Tokyo cyberspace or cyberpunk city, and random people are just disintegrating and turning into piles of clothes, and you're trying to figure out what happened to them as you sort of do these cool archery powers and it's different athletic things.
It's kind of like the Rapture has come along, and the occult has also like appeared as well, because the lovely lady who presented the game explained that there's a lot of supernatural elements coming on. We got to see some quite creepy designs, people with old school sort of like kabuki theatre demon masks. We got to see a very odd looking thing, which is a man or woman holding an umbrella wearing a suit, but the handle's all gnarled.
They're like really long.
Oh, I didn't like that. Did not like
I like
that.
the general sort of like art style. I mean, Shinji Mikami is like, I don't know how much of a hand he had in the art direction of the Evil Within games, but some of the creatures in those games were really twisted.
Well, obviously, back in the day, he was with Resident Evil and stuff like that as well.
Yeah,
so he knows how to design sort of like evil creatures. So
because like Resi went at times went too far into the whole, and another eyeball on the shoulder or whatever. Whereas like the Evil Within is sort of, in places was a little bit more considered. Maybe Evil Within 2 is a bit too much, but yeah, it seems like they're going down like a slightly different route with more futuristic stuff, but you still have the horror element too. It's really cool.
Well, speaking of going down a slightly different route and also horrific elements, let's talk about how horrible Blades is on mobile and how it's a different route from the Elder Scrolls, because we wanted to see Elder Scrolls 6, but we got to know that the Elder Scrolls Blade is coming to the Switch now.
Yeah, the thing that this is a wider point, because I'm sick of publishers and developers treating the Switch like a dumping ground. Like there are so many just like half-baked mobile ports that come across from various mobile app stores just onto the Switch's eShop, and that thing just, as a massive Switch fan, just annoys me, because like I just don't. I mean, you can cash in and you can get a bunch of money. Like obviously the Switch is incredibly popular, but something like just going, hey, we'll just put Blades on Switch. All that's going to do is remind people to play Skyrim, which is maybe a knock-on effect that they intend.
Yeah.
But like, Blades is already the most watered-down half-baked half-baked Elder Scrolls ever. So,
but it managed to get itself a nice boost because the new DLC pack that's coming out for it is something to do with Elsewhere. I don't know how you pronounce it.
That was for Elder Scrolls Online.
That's the new DLC pack for Blades as well.
Okay.
And also the card game, and also the fact they did an online thing as well, which was a huge, maybe 7-minute animated video. Again, it was a padded thing. Like, it was fantastic. Like, millions of pounds had clearly been spent on it. Like, but at the end of the day, it wasn't any in-game content, and it wasn't showing us something that we didn't already know.
It was just
their biggest thing was, we have dragons in the Elder Scrolls Online now.
They sort of made a joke out of it and then just kept going.
Yeah,
where it was like,
I know.
we're going to put dragons in everything. But like that was the thing. If you sort of like you talk about their first party things. Like for me, Bethesda are just like completely dropping the ball as a developer in terms of what they're doing with their first party IP. And you think about like Elder Scrolls. They said that Elder Scrolls 6 wasn't going to be there, but then we had Legends, Blades, and Online. Like DLC packs and other things coming to the Switch. It's just in terms of treating the Elder Scrolls license, I guess it continues the fan bases that are already there, but it's not convincing anybody that's not.
It's kind of just like, well, look, we want to keep it away from this thing because we want to give it its own spotlight, but here's how we're running it into the ground. It's fine. Those games are great. Like, if you enjoy that, that's absolutely up to you. But here's the thing that I would have liked them to spend more time on, which unfortunately they didn't, which is actually a bit of tech that they're developing called Orion. Now, Orion seems to be some sort of in between the game development stage and streaming, which they say, if implemented at the development stage of a game, could cut down 40% of latency issues.
I mean, they reckon that they found a way to minimize bandwidth.
You'd need 40% less bandwidth to stream a game at its maximum percentage.
Yes.
Like, that is mind-blowing tech.
We're getting
also big props up to the Google Stadia as well.
I was going to say, we're getting so many like attempts to do streaming now. Like, obviously, it's the next big frontier in gaming, but like Google Stadia is the one who's leading the charge with it, kind of thing. And then you had in Microsoft's conference them confirming that they're doing the xCloud stuff, and sort of saying that like they're going to be trialing that stuff like at E3 and going forward for the rest of this year. But now we also have Bethesda, like, you know, who owns like a major tech company, like trying to find ways to do it on the software side. Which apparently, according to them, they found this way to make it so that games will require less bandwidth.
Yep.
Which would go hand in hand with the likes of Google Stadia or Xbox or anything like that, to make streaming games, big AAA games, even more manageable.
I mean, if they can
don't believe it, but
but I would have loved to have seen more sort of development on that, because I feel like that's a huge talking point at the moment. But they kind of just breezed on through it.
They did show someone playing Doom, but it was a phone tablet attached to a controller, and they were just playing it.
I was blown away by that, to be fair.
I don't trust it, but maybe I want to. It's just that after we watched the Google Stadia demo, and then people sort of zoomed in and realised the motions weren't matching up.
I mean, just
don't know.
imagine though, if you were able to pick up your phone, strap a controller to it, and play something like Doom at 60 frames per second, like, that would be mind-blowing.
True. I mean, that's their hope. But
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, for me, I always go to the real-world application of it, and I'm like, if I'm on the train, I'm never going to have a connection that's strong enough to beam that in.
I'd also think as well, your battery life would be
exactly.
shagged,
Like,
man.
there are all these like weird sort of things that need to be in place before we can even entertain the idea of this. So I'm kind of yet to be convinced. But
Well,
Orion sounds good.
Speaking of places and being entertained,
Being
there's
impressed.
two new places that we get to go to in Doom Eternal, which is Heaven and Hell, are going to be two new locations that we fully get to explore in the new game, which we finally
Hell was in the old ones.
No, but he said that it's going to be new areas of Hell.
Yes.
So I was just stressing that. It's going into different layers now. But we also finally got a release date for it, which is November the 22nd. Yes, Doom fans, praise be.
It's, 12, 14 days after Death Stranding? 2
Yep.
weeks after Death Stranding?
Good luck to
Everything
it.
seems to be dropping in November now.
Almost like it's for Christmas.
It is a little bit for Christmas, but our wallets are going to be completely blown apart and destroyed at the end of November.
Very true.
You know, week to week, there's pretty much a new game coming out every week in that month.
But that's pretty much what being in Doom's all about, being blown up and destroyed. And
Being
got
relentless.
and this thing, Bethesda put all of its eggs into its basket with putting Doom at the final bit of its presentation, and it gave it a full 15 minutes showed 3 different gameplay.
They kept cutting away and going back to it again.
And to be honest, I was blown away. We got to see a new trailer with some new footage using different weapons and skills. We got to see a gameplay section, which was just an amazing arena rush where whoever was playing it was doing such a good job at balancing the weapons and powers.
There's a whole bunch of because I mean, obviously the whole feel, one of the biggest appeals of 2016 Doom is that throwback to arena shooters.
Yeah.
In the new one, there are so many really hyper brightly coloured power-ups that you're just chaining together and grabbing, and you're always in a constant state of motion. They've got a whole bunch of like extended poles in midair that you can swing off, and you collect another power-up, and then you dash through another thing, and it just seems like that sense of like kineticism that was in the original has just been like quadrupled and like just made even more frenetic.
There's an old school aesthetic with that as well. Like, I love the fact that you've got these beautiful Gothic architectures and then these very weirdly almost pixelated health mana potion pots on the floor. Like, I like that. I find it jarring and kind of like it's abrasive, and that's what Doom is. It's like in your face everywhere. I am so hyped.
They also showed a multiplayer mode. I forget the name. I think it was called Battle something.
Battle Zone.
Battle Zone, where it's an asynchronous multiplayer where one player plays as the Doomslayer and two other players play as two of the monsters.
And apparently there's multiple monsters that you can select as well, which is even better. So you get an asynchronous multiplayer experience, but one that isn't like Evolve. But one that
I guess they're like channeling just a little bit of that in terms of like how much fun it is to control a monster. It's something that Gears of War used to do, and then in the Horde mode you could play as some of the different locusts and everything. And I like the idea of that. And you can maybe play as like a Tetra demon or whatever the hell it is.
It's gonna be fun.
And it's like they have that whole like, because initially when they were describing it, I thought you'd be able to play, or a whole bunch of players would play as like the army, and you just watch one guy as the Doomslayer ping-ponging around everywhere.
That could be cool.
But it seems like they've made it more balanced, where it's 2v1, but it's all about the abilities of the monsters.
You can actually call in NPC monsters and demons as well to slow the Doomslayer down as well. So I mean, to be honest, it sounds like it's going to be another flipping fantastic string to its already over-encumbered bow. So
very, very lucky that they had that to show off, though, because the vast majority of this conference was kind of just like pulling teeth. Like it was very just. I mean, there's when we were live streaming it, a lot of Fs paying respect to different games like
for Commander
Key and the Fallout Battle Royale, and then obviously they advertised Doom ahead of time. They had it as these three big billboards outside the conference, and it kind of seemed like obviously they were going to devote a lot of time to it. But for me, that only doubles down how much they are dropping the ball as developers, doing very well as publishers, or at least in terms of they've put the money in the right places. But it's insane how little we're talking about first-party Bethesda stuff.
Yeah, but
there's nothing.
But there we go, 5 games effectively. I think it's 5 at least. Anyway, that were announced. There are some big, interesting ones like the what's it called? Deathloop and the
Ghostwire is the thing I'm here for.
Ghostwire is the one that I'm really excited for because Shinji is my boy. I love him to pieces. But yeah, that was the Bethesda E3 2019 conference roundup for you lovely people at home. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for joining us on the stream and for all the new members that we got as well. I was having to scream so many names, it was getting ridiculous at one point.
We're going to get some sleep now because it's 3:15 in the morning.
We are indeed. So I will upload this video as soon as I can. You can go follow me at RetroJ0 over on Twitter, and
you can find me at /LP89.
But until then, whatever you're getting up to, I hope you have a fantastic day. Remember, you have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.